Would you start by telling us your story?
Yeah, sure. Don't really know where to start, at what point exactly. Possibly at one of the most important events of my life that kind of led me into what happened is at the age of 15 I had a bike accident which put me into a coma of 5 days, 4 months into hospital, skin graft, wanting to amputate my leg because I didn't know how to do that at the time. That was beginning of the 80s. It was a huge skin graft, and they didn't just know, they didn't have the techniques to do that. And so yeah, I kind of basically waited 4 months in hospital waiting for the decision to be taken, and they finally made it, and it was great. I'm still having my leg and everything's good. But one of the important things of this accident was that it was basically my fault what happened, and we were two, and the other person died on the spot. He had a concussion before and got brain bleeding basically, and I wasn't told about it like for 2 weeks into it because I also had a huge concussion. I was 15, so yeah, not so easy at that time. What happened then, basically, in order to deal with the whole thing? Oh, maybe I need to add that I was totally amnesic for about 7 years, and that was actually good because I wasn't aware that I was the one that actually, I mean, I didn't really cause the accident, but I did take a left turn where I was not supposed to, and the car came at 120 an hour and kind of hit us. So yeah, that was the beginning part of it, I would say. That's what I at that time felt was the beginning part of my journey. Obviously, it started much before, but I didn't know that at that time. So I took about 25 kg in hospital, which I now know was really creating a protection around that. And I left the country basically right after my A levels. I went out, and I started working for a huge holiday club. Let's call it. Don't say the name. Big holiday club, and decided to study tourism and to be able to use my languages and get on. And I was really in this career mood, and I got into the administration, and I think I was one of the youngest administrators at that time in the villages, and I ended up in Asia, and yeah. So I kept climbing the corporate ladder. I left that club. I met my ex-husband-to-be at the time. I stayed in Malaysia for 10 years and worked for hotels, tour operators, and yeah, climbed up there. And at one point, it didn't make much sense anymore. There was an important thing that happened then, which was related to the accident. Is basically how many years after was that? It was 98. So that was 18 years later. We had a marital problem with my husband, and I lost my 25 kg, just like that. And that moment I was like, there is something going on, you know? I mean, I didn't diet, I didn't do anything. It was just like, as if I was going through that shock again. And at that moment, basically, I related it back to the accident, which I didn't do before, you know? I was just, okay, I was 4 months in hospital, I've been eating too much, I've been drinking too much, I didn't move, I was in my bed, so normal. No, it was normal. So when I got back from Malaysia, I started working for another big company, and I ended up in Laos and again Asia. And during the SARS period, I decided to do a retreat on an island in Malaysia. And I was basically 2 months, not by myself because there were other people, but there were very little tourists at that time. And I've been walking around the island, and I was in tune with the climate, like we had very heavy rains, and I was coming out, and I was kind of going through like a mini depression kind of thing, and I was coming out in the morning and I was seeing what the nature was going around me. This sea that was totally wild, and all these stuff on the beach and whatever, and I was like, wow. And I kind of put that in relation, which was happening with me, and I thought, I don't want to go back to my corporate life. I want to do something else. And I think on my family background, I had my mother's mother used to be a healer. She used to have something in her hands, and I always felt there's something in my hands, and I really wanted to do something about it. And I came across a book about Reiki, and thought, let's take a look at that. And I didn't know, I really had no clue what I wanted to do and what I could do. I just knew that what I was doing was not right anymore. I don't know, it was an intuition, it was a guidance, and I got out of that retreat, and I came to see a friend in France, and he told me about this new neighbor who was a Reiki practitioner, and so I said, oh, I have to take an appointment. I mean, it's clear, I have to do something about it, and I want to know what this is, and So I had a discussion with her, and she was also a psychosomatotherapist, and she actually guided me towards that school that finally took me in for a 3-4 year training. And it was interesting because I realized that I was really, probably for the first time of my life, letting myself be guided, really just following my intuition and saying, I need to do this, I want to do this. And I got started. I just booked myself into it. I was still in Laos. I went back to Laos. This was kind of still a break, and I went back, and I booked myself into this school. I signed up for the courses, and I arrived in that area which was far off Montpellier, at the feet of the 7 mountains, and for a 9-day training, and I had no clue what I was getting myself into. No clue. I thought I would be, I read through the training stuff, of course, and I knew I was going to learn massage the first year, the techniques and stuff, and I didn't realize that I was going to have to receive massage myself, which was very complicated. I didn't want to. I had a relation to my body that was really not healthy, and I didn't want to get that. I didn't want to get massaged, and I thought we were going to have models and learning techniques on how to do that. I was totally out of clue. Yeah, I can say that. And it was thanks to the fact that we were so far off that I kind of stayed on and said, no, I decided to do that, and I was guided here, and I go through with it. I don't know where this is going to lead me. And this is where I needed to start a work on myself. That I was obliged, since I wanted to become a psychotherapist, bodily psychotherapist, to do a work on myself. That also was a part I didn't understand before, and I didn't realize that I actually needed to work. Why should I need to work on myself? There was nothing. No, everything was fine. Sure, there was the accident, but then I felt like by then I thought I had figured it out, and it was okay. Nothing to be done about it. Yeah, and then it started, and the first year I was extremely in control. I didn't let anything out, nothing at all. The massage part was difficult, but it was like an obligation, something I needed to get through with, and had to do that. in order to become what I wanted to become, right? A therapist.
Mm.
So, become a therapist. So, I think about it now, I really have to laugh about myself. It was kind of hilarious. And at the end of the first year, we had, I think that was the first time I really had something happening. I received, and I gave also, but it was the receiving part, a massage with 10 hands. So 5 people massaging me. And somehow I wasn't able to control anymore because it was going on all over the place. It's the body, right? So it was like impossible. And I kind of let go of the control at the end. And I realized we were in the hall, and then at the end they were carrying us up and out of the hall into the garden. And then they were putting us down in the garden. And at that moment when they were carrying me, I felt all that agitation around me, because there were like 5 others that were getting massaged at the same time and that were also kind of coming out of the room. And I felt I was back in hospital. I felt I was arriving and having all these, suddenly you've been in a very dark room and you're coming out and brought into the light outside. And I had this impression to be under the projectors of the ER, kind of, when I was arriving. Only that I couldn't, because I was in a coma, right? So that really questioned me. I was like, what happened there? I was like, okay, must have been kind of a memory of getting into the ER, but who was watching? So that was kind of a breakthrough at that moment. And and then I kind of accepted that this work, I really needed to do it, and I really needed to go about it and do something about it. The second breakthrough came in the beginning of the second year, where we had already integrated now all the massage techniques, and we were coming into other tools of the psychosomato, and one of the tools is rebirth. So I needed to learn how to get into rebirth, of course, same thing, right? No models. And that one really helped me because I couldn't control anything. It's because the breathing, when you go into this hyperventilation, at one point your mind is just going blank. And everything was black, and I just pushed a scream. I don't know where that one was coming from. And I really felt like getting into my coma. And I think it was the same session that we were asked to make a body scheme of ourselves, to draw ourselves basically, that from head to feet. And we had a big A1 sheet to do that. And my head was so big that I wouldn't fit anything else than up to my hips. So I said, can I have another piece of paper, please? I made a mistake. And the therapist went, no, dear. Can I turn it around and kind of start again? No, there is a meaning to that. Leave it as it is. So my awareness there was, I don't have legs. And again, that came back to the accident. I don't have legs. My legs were like cut off. And so I really needed to learn to get back into my body, to get back onto my legs, to use them, and to reconstruct myself, basically. And that's what I think what I spent the 3 years of my training on. And that's something I would have never done on my own if I hadn't gone into this school and into starting to wanting to become a therapist. So that's kind of part of my trip there, where I am today.
Why do you feel that the somatosensory therapy works? How did it get you back into yourself?
It gave me my body awareness. That's for sure, and I think that's what it does to most of the people. It starts really off with having the sensations and feeling my body when it doesn't hurt. You know, I mean, it's very easy to feel when you hit something, or you know, then of course you will feel your body. But there is a possibility of feeling it, even though it is not hurting, and it can actually be pleasant to feel your body. So that was an extraordinary experience to me. Another thing what I really like about this therapy, and which really helped me also, because I need to go back to my personal therapy in that, because when I started, I had my trainings, my group trainings in Montpellier, and then I had like 2-3 months in between the trainings to really have the proper integration. And during that time, I was supposed to find a somatotherapist, only that I was in the west of France, in Nantes, and there was none. So I had a bit of a dilemma finding somebody, and I found a lady who called herself a bodily psychotherapist, but she was really more on a talking level, even though she was sophrologist. Does that exist in English? A sophrologist?
I don't know
that. I think that's a very, very French thing. It's like the Occidental way of Zen.
Okay.
Yeah, how you can feel your body through breathing into it. And so she was using the body, but just not through touch, the way I was doing it. So she helped me. She helped me tremendously getting into those bodily sensations, which I experienced in the trainings before. So we were able to work the whole thing through. And this is, of course, also where my whole childhood comes up, and everything really got worked on. And I actually, at one point, I understood that there's a reason why I caused that accident. Because of the constellation my family was, and I needed to draw attention to me. I must have been very worried that my parents would split up or something. There was something around that. So this is something really that came through the body awareness, that I understood all that. And I think when you are, I shouldn't say I think, because it's really more of a feeling. When you have that experience within your body and you feel what's going on, you really understand it. And you can make those connections of what you mentally understood, what you became conscious about or aware about, and then link it to the bodily sensations. And this is an amazing experience, which I really feel great to big help in the bodily work, psychotherapy, and through the body. For me, it was even more important to, as I said earlier, to get back the actual functionality of the body there.
When you became aware that you had this large disconnect with the lower part of your body, how long did it take you before you felt that you reconnected again?
Oh, it was very fast. From the moment I did that drawing, and I read that, and I wrote down, I don't have legs. And the therapist that was facilitating that session, she came along and she just asked me, okay, where are they? I said, well, actually they're here. She said, can you get up? Can you use them? And I just got up and I started moving, and she got me really into, I mean, that's what somato is about, it's getting the body into movement. So they are there, It was kind of amazing about that. Mm-hmm.
After the accident and the intervening years before you discovered somatosensory, had you an awareness of any sensations at all in it? I mean, obviously you knew they were there, but did you feel anything during that time that of note?
It's another interesting question, which leads me to another little story. I was parallel through my psychosomato. I was also going through Reiki trainings, and I had this this Reiki trainer, Reiki master, she was doing individual sessions. So I did my Reiki master, and then with her, in her place. So she was in the east of France, so I kind of, east of France for Reiki, south of France for somato. I was all the way on the road. And at one point she said to me, because she knew my story, and she said to me, I have this new Reiki that somebody just shared with me and attuned me to, which is called Lao Chi. And it helps with traumatisms, with bodily traumas. And she said, would you like to try it? I was like, well, yeah, I'd love to, actually. And at that time, I had no sensation at all at the whole back part of my leg. The whole part here was like numb. And the surgeon had told me if the sensation doesn't come back within a year, it won't come back because it was disconnected through the number plate of the car. So that particular attunement, she made it via distance. So she stayed at her place, and I was lying down in my living room. And she tuned in, and I actually heard a little bell when it started, even though we were not on the phone or anything, right? I just heard like a little bell. I said, wow, that's interesting. Let's just go. Okay. So I received that attunement, and I've never been somebody who is clairvoyant or clairauditive or whatever. No, never. I never hear anything. I never see anything. I feel it's really happening in my hands. And at the end of the attunement, I thought, well, I guess now it's over. I can get up. And I said, that's weird. And I was wearing a pair of jeans, and I could feel the jeans on my leg. I actually got my sensation back through that energetic work I've been doing there. And that was, another thing really absolutely amazing.
And it stayed since then.
Oh yeah, it stayed. It's still a little bit less than the other side, but I mean, no, I can't even feel a mosquito bite.
Unfortunately.
It's working.
You perhaps have answered it in a different way, but I'd like to ask again. Was there anything you felt that you had to change in your life in order for Reiki and for most particularly somatosensory therapy to work for you?
I think changes just happened. I didn't need to do anything consciously about it. And I think that's also the beauty of the body. Because once you get started on that journey, it's like you put your foot in the door and you took a peep outside and you saw what's happening and you can't go back anymore. So things are just, once you open for it, things are just happening. And that brings me back also to one thing I wanted to say earlier, that when you start a bodily psychotherapy, it is still considered a brief therapy in comparison to psychoanalysis, which can take 10, 20 years, whatever, 2 or 3 times a week. And so here we're more talking about a few months to a year kind of therapy. It's still long in comparison to 3 sessions of hypnotherapy, for instance. But I mean, it remains a psychotherapy. But the thing is that you learn about yourself, and you learn how to react to certain things, and how to question certain sensations in your body at any moment. I can share what happened this morning. Like at 4 o'clock, I woke up with a spinning headache. So before all that, I would have taken an aspirin would have gotten up and take a pill and get back to sleep. And here was like, no, I mean, what's going on? And I was like, okay, anything that is on my mind, well, obviously the interview is on my mind. I mean, I'm not gonna hide that, but I don't think that's what caused the headache. And then I was like, okay, probably I didn't drink enough yesterday. It's just as easy as that, So it's not necessarily always a very deep reason behind it. When there is, it will pop up by itself. You don't need to push. And the other nice thing about it is that I'm still in contact with, I mean, I have lots of friends that are also gone through that school and that are still practicing somatotherapy. So I can call them, I can have a chat with them if there is something that I need some outside help with. You know, or when I'm back in France, I go there and I say, well, look, I really need a massage because I really need you to go at that particular point. I can't seem to be breaking through with it. And then I just need somebody to pinpoint me. And things fall into places. And I think that's the beauty of this practice also, because you learn yourself how to handle your body and how to handle your connection, body and mind and spirit. I mean, it's all one, right? It's the way things work together that you figure out, basically. And it's a beautiful journey.
Is there anything that you can do in your life now that you couldn't do before you became aware of this disconnect in yourself?
Everything. Everything. I don't think my life today has anything to do with my life before that. I even feel like I have lived different lives. And yeah, it's much richer now. You know, I'm much more aware of what's going on already in myself, but also in the relations with others. And you know, things are just getting more important and more richer and energetically. And it's probably also the whole energy of this world is changing. So this is part of it. But yeah.
Can you expand a little bit on what you mean by it's helped your relation with others?
Well, already I needed to be really careful not to be the therapist of others outside my practice, right? Like my partner, or you know, not to get into that trap, basically. But then it does help to see certain things and to be more tolerant and more indulgent and more have more softer approaches. And even I think I'm a very choleric person at the base, and I can see certain anger now in me coming up, and I kind of sometimes it still would come up, and it's good, it has to come out. But I can come down from it much faster, and that helps in the relationship with others as well. You know, the way the way things are handled, the way we're going about it.
I think I'm understanding you're saying that through this work, not only have you found a connection within yourself somatosensory wise, but you've also found a connection to emotions and not then control, but having a relationship with them.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because it's all one, right? I mean, in psychosomato, we're really on the search of emotions. You know, it's a bit like a detective work. My trainer used to say, you know, we are kind of trying to find the spots where the trauma is sitting and where the emotions are sitting and trying to get them out. And without forcing, of course, because it's really at the pace of the person in therapy. But it puts the body into movement, and it brings out anger in a safe space. It brings out sadness, it brings out fears, and that could just be as simple as feeling cold, you know, or extremely hot. Like, you know, when you're angry, when you have an anger energy, it's like a lot of heat and a lot of things coming up. So yeah, you start recognizing all these emotions and working through them, basically. You know, like, why am I suddenly feeling cold? I mean, it's hot here, you know, there's no reason for me to feel cold. So what is behind that? So then that questioning would start for myself. Yeah.
If you felt like you took a step backwards in your improvements with your connection with your body and your emotions and your sensations, what would be your process to reconnect?
Right. I don't think I would do anything differently. I think it would be exactly the same thing, because I was not able to do anything else. You know, that even that very first year was so important, because it made me realize that I was controlling. So every single step along the line, it's a very individual process, and it's important. I don't think there would be anything that, with what I know now, would change anything on the way it happened. No.
The way you personally reacted after the accident, and perhaps the experiences you were having before that, why do you think that you reacted in that way?
Interesting.
I could give an example, say someone else may have responded with perhaps an addiction or why do you think your body reacted in this way?
I think my body needed protection. Also, this was 1980. There was no psychological questions behind it. You know, I mean, my parents did a great job. They got me back on that motorcycle, and they got it repaired and got me back on it as soon as I got out of the hospital. But I think, that would have been good to see a therapist at that moment. You know, because there was a lot of trauma, obviously, which I didn't see, but I mean, I could imagine others should have seen it or could have seen it. But then it wasn't during that particular time, wouldn't do that. I was sent to a neurologist. I had all these, can't do it. Needed to touch my nose and stuff, and it was difficult. And and then they realized there was still some stuff going on, physically going on. Also, what would have been good was, which is available to us now, is like osteopathy. I've been virtually running around with 2 vertebrae dislocated, and I actually had my right side that was low, and I did never see it. Like 22 years later, I went to see an osteopath, and he put me in front of a mirror and he said, "What do you see?" I said, "Nothing. It's me." He said, "Can't you see what's going on with your shoulder there?" And I was like, "No." It was so normal, right? So bodily and psychologically, I think it would have helped for me not to go into protection mode, because that was my defense mechanism. That's the one that was my personal defense mechanism that I created, was this protection through the weight gain and keeping people away from me.
Is there anything you want to add or finish with?
Get into body work.
That is perfect. Thank you so much.
Anybody can profit of that, yeah.
I completely agree with what you're saying. Thank you so much, Svenja, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.